If you ever travel down the narrow wooded Shoal Creek Road in the town of Canton, Georgia, you'll eventually arrive at an old and lonely church, whitewashed and steepled, standing proud and tall among the surrounding trees. This is New Hightower Baptist Church, better known as Hell's Church, the sinister nickname bestowed upon it by the locals. Hell's Church was erected in the 1860s, and though it is still an active church, it holds services infrequently. Its history is dark and sordid, and the church is said to be haunted, with visitors noticing shadowy figures stalking around the church at night, and mysterious lights shining dimly in the surrounding woods. Visitors also have reported hearing organ music coming from inside the church, when no one should be there. New Hightower Baptist Church was built in a place with many ancient Native American sites. In fact, the name Etowah, used as a name for various streets and places in and around Canton, is the Cherokee pronunciation of the word Hightower, which settlers used to describe the tall hills towering over the area. In 1995, a Cherokee burial ground was discovered in an expanse of land where a Walmart parking lot currently sits. The graves were relocated during the construction of the Walmart, but the damage to the burial ground was already done. The construction of New Hightower Baptist Church itself may have also disturbed native land, as it was possibly built on property received in the Cherokee Land Lottery of 1832. Eerily enough, just as Cherokee graves were disturbed by land development in Canton, so too were the graves in the New Hightower Baptist Church Cemetery desecrated by vandals drawn to the spot for its alleged paranormal activity. Hell's Church itself acknowledges its vandalism problem and also announces its history, with a humble stone stele you can find near the church entrance, a vestige from the original church building before it was burned down. The words etched into this small monument proclaim, "A remnant from New Hightower Baptist Church, burned by vandals, 1990. New Hightower Baptist Church constituted in 1886 as a school, church, and for the burial of the dead." The church has been the subject of various rumors over the course of its history, mainly alleging that it has been a place of satanic worship. A boy was supposedly murdered as part of a cult ritual on the church grounds during the 1980s, at the height of satanic panic. However, no evidence of this has been found. The baptismal pool on the church grounds near a creek where congregants were formerly baptized in the church's early days is said to have been the site of sacrifices and rituals as well. It was graffitied with pentagrams by vandals, and has since been repainted. The fire in 1990 the stele in front of the church references was set by Michael Douglas Priest Jr., according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, to both drive away alleged Satanists and enact revenge on Jack Howard Potts, who had murdered Michael's father in 1975 when Michael Sr. was only 24 years old and his wife was pregnant with Michael Jr. Potts had been driving the car of a man named Gene Snyder, from whom he'd sought a ride to get from Forsyth to Marietta, where Potts had left his own car. He shot Snyder and left him, still alive, in the car, and came to Michael Sr.'s house covered in blood, claiming he was in a car accident. Michael volunteered to take him to a hospital, but upon getting into Snyder's car and seeing Snyder shot and bleeding, Michael realized Potts was dangerous. Michael begged for his life, telling Potts he had a wife and a baby on the way. Potts declared himself Michael's god and demanded Michael pray to him. Michael did so. They then stopped on a dirt road en route to Marietta. Potts took Michael into some tall weeds, forced him onto his knees, and shot him in his head. I couldn't find any specifics on the location of the dirt road, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was near New Hightower Baptist Church. I can't think of any other reason why Michael Jr. would burn it down to avenge his father's death, and sources don't explain the connection between the church and his father's murder. Potts was sentenced to death for his crimes in 1976. and interestingly enough, converted to Catholicism in his cell on death row in Georgia State Prison. Perhaps the negative energy surrounding New Hightower Baptist Church, or his guilt over declaring himself Michael's God, moved him to find a new religion in his final days. Across from New Hightower Baptist Church and along the edge of the graveyard stands the tall and sinister hanging tree, also called the lynching tree, although there are no records or accounts of this tree ever being used to hang anyone. I heard from my students at a college where I teach in North Georgia that the church was also at one point an all-black church and was burned down on another occasion by the KKK. Perhaps they performed hangings at this tall and ominous tree with its dark, thick, jagged branches. New Hightower Baptist Church, better known as Hell's Church, remains an enduring fixture of North Georgia folklore, as well as a popular spot for teenagers to make trouble and paranormal enthusiasts to explore. Though most of the stories surrounding it remain unconfirmed, it still stands as a creepy destination in its own right, if only for its seclusion in the still and silent Georgia wilderness and the sheer number of lost souls who peacefully rest in its cemetery.